back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I have a book review for you. I recently read The Lost History of Stars by Dave Boling. It was a book club pick. It was actually from my list. A bajillion years ago, when I picked Beartown for us, this was in like my second place running for that particular meeting. So I added it to my list when we started doing our random picker, which I've told you about previously, where it's a big long list we've all submitted to, and we just random number generator. That's the book we read. So, my book recently. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go back and forth between things I liked and didn't like. I'm not gonna start in any one particular place. So, I don't know if this. Okay. Wait a minute. It is a concentration camp during the Boer War in South Africa. So, you know, British and Dutch. It is not a time period or a place that I think I've seen before. I'm not sure I've ever seen this before in a book. I don't know if that was a purposeful pick of I'm going to do this specifically, or if it was just kind of like I'm looking for interesting new things and maybe this will be good. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, I thought that was interesting. I had not seen that before. I just was kind of like, oh. And I think that's maybe why I was drawn to it initially, because I was like, that's not your regular historical fiction. Okay. Our main character is Letty. 12 to 14. This is where my maybe don't likes come in. She is our protagonist, our narrator, but she doesn't seem like fully thought out. Like, she does not seem like she's a young girl in her early teens kind of thing. The way that she talks sometimes is very childlike, and then other times is extremely like, you're a grown-ass woman. And I know teenagers are fucking wild. Who fucking knows what they're really like? But, like, it was just, like, so far on either end sometimes that I was like, where did this come from? Like, this doesn't seem right for the character. So I had that complaint about that. In terms of characters, I liked Bina. Her... she's not a nanny, maid, like they're African worker on the farm that they're on. I liked her, but at the same time I didn't like her, because her character did seem very shallow and not thought out. She is, you know, quotes, not real thought, and it's almost like she's like a caricature of what you would expect like a Native woman in the area working for white people would be. So like, I liked her, but I didn't like her at the same time. The older women and the men seem to be well thought out, a little bit better. We get to see a lot of like the mother, and so like, and the aunt, and so like they seem to be fully formed characters compared to some of the other ones who are just kind of like a name, despite the fact that, you know, they all live in this like one very large homestead, basically, kind of thing. So it's kind of like, some of these are good, some of these are not. I feel like just a little bit more of some characters would have been good. Yeah. I feel like I maybe didn't connect with it because it was colonizers colonizing another colonizer. I was like, sorry, who am I supposed to be feeling bad for? I don't. You know, like, the Dutch are acting like they were the first ones there and there was no one there before them, but then, like, one of the British soldiers is like, well, who was here when you came here? Like, you're telling us that we're horrible people for trying to push you off the land. Who'd you push off the land? And it's just very, like, on the nose. I was like, Christ, we're having this argument, okay. I was like, we got there finally, but like at the same time, like, can you just both say you're wrong? You're both wrong. That was a particular sticking point for me. It was just like, you're colonizing, but you also colonized. Okay, one thing about the writing that I really enjoyed, I don't know if this was on purpose or not, and I don't know if I'm picking up on something that maybe was not intended. I don't know. Point is, it does kind of go back and forth between the concentration camp and, like, before they went to the concentration camp when they were on the farm. So, the farther we get into the book, the less we talk about the farm. At the same time, her Opa? Yeah. Very God-fearing man. Lots of talk about God in the beginning to the point where I was like, I might not be able to read this. It's fucking going on and on about God constantly. Everything is for the glory of God. Fucking whatever. I was like, nah, atheists can't take that. So I thought for a hot minute that I might have to give up this book because I was just like, I'm glad I pushed through over it. But yeah, the longer we went on in the concentration camp, the less we talked about the farm, the less we talked about God. Which I thought was quite interesting. The way I picked up on it, I was kind of like, is it on purpose, or is it just because, like, all the action is happening in the concentration camp now, so we're not really, like, thinking about the past? Or is it just kind of like, everyone has lost so much hope that what's even the point of remembering good times, or, you know, believing that there will be times after it? Because very much what it is, like, the farm is remembering the good times, and God is, like, hoping that there will be good times in the future kind of thing, right? So it's kind of like, are they giving up? Like, it very much felt like the longer we're here, the more we're giving up. It does not matter. So there's that. I think I've covered most of what I want to actually say about the book. There's things I liked, things I didn't like. But overall, I am going to say this is kind of a forgettable book. It's a very slow book. It is a very slow pace. There's no big things of action happening, keeping anything going. It's, you know, a 14-year-old girl going about her daily business in a concentration camp. At a place where we don't normally think about a concentration camp. I feel like this isn't one of the ones where you went concentration camp, you'd immediately go, Boer War. No, I feel like a lot of people maybe don't even know that happened. But, yeah, despite its unique sort of setting and time period, it is just honestly kind of forgettable. There is 1,026 reviews of it on Goodreads, and it averages out to 3.74 stars. So, like, that's kind of where I'd put this. Kind of, like, in the middle, but just slightly above the middle. Like, the writing is decent, despite the characters not being fleshed out enough. It wasn't like I was reading it and going, like, what the hell is he trying to say? Like, I don't get it. It was just like, yep, I get it. We're going. We're doing this. Okay. Things are happening. And, oh, this. Okay. And then it's just kind of like, I finished it, and I was just like, I often get book hangovers. Legit. So, when I stopped it and I was finished, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm going to start another book immediately. And I did. So, like, I don't regret having read it. It was a nice little read for a nice little time, but, like, I definitely won't be reading it again. I don't strongly recommend it. It was interesting to read. Someone somewhere else that's so vastly different from where I am, but, like, I couldn't tell you most of what happened. I only read this like 3 days ago. I'm just like, yep, she goes on and she goes on and she goes on. Things happen in a concentration camp that you'd expect to happen in a concentration camp. Oh, that is one thing. I kind of, after finding out that it was going to be a concentration camp, expected it to be a little bit darker than it actually was. Because, I mean, the world we live in, you know, our first instinct of concentration camp is usually going to be, like, the Holocaust. But, like, obviously this is a very different time. This is a different thing that's happening. It's, like, literally just, like, keep them pent up. It's not a genocide. But yeah, like, I expected a lot darker things to happen, and, like, yeah, okay, some children die, and lots of people are sick, and you hear about a few people getting shot. And you hear a little bit about the war that's happening, but not that much about the war that's happening, not, like, anything graphic and detailed. So it's just kind of like I expected it to be a little bit darker, and it wasn't. Which is kind of nice in one way, and kind of like, are you sugarcoating this a little bit? So I'll give you that. I wouldn't necessarily say there's even triggers in this book, other than, like, child death. Like, that's how, like, glossed over it kind of seems. Oh, and animal death. Yeah, I'd say that's the predominant too. That's sort of it. It's just kind of like, yep. If it's available to you, read it. If it's not, I wouldn't honestly seek it out. If you're into the Boer War kind of, like, that's your time frame, then, like, knock yourself out. So I guess that's all I have to say about that book. Not giving my ratings anymore, so you know what I feel. Read it, don't read it, it's fine. Alright, well, thanks for hanging out. Remember to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you around next time.